Ontario government making Indigenous education available for students in grades 1 to 3. Dan Kearns, local journalism initiative reporter for The Standard. Durham Kawartha. The Ontario government is making changes to the elementary school curriculum to allow for more education about Indigenous peoples. Already, the curriculum includes mandatory and detailed learning in the social studies, grade 4 to 6 courses, and in history in grade 4, grade 7 and 8 and 10. This includes mandatory learning on residential schools in grades 8 and 10. Building on this, we are working on completing the full spectrum of Indigenous-focused learning across the elementary social studies curriculum. This includes mandatory Indigenous-focused learning added to the social studies curriculum for grades 1 to 3, Ontario Education Minister Stephen Leachy announced on Wednesday, September 29th. These changes to the grades 1 to 3 curriculum are expected to be made by September 2023. According to a provincial press release, this curriculum is expected to include information on the role of family and resilience in First Nations, Métis, and Inuit communities and nations, First Nations, Métis, and Inuit historical and contemporary realities, Indigenous peoples' interrelationship and connection with the land, and the residential school system. Today, as we approach the National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, we continue to work towards acknowledging and addressing past wrongs, which are still felt across Indigenous communities in a present way. It is why we are working closely with Indigenous partners, elders, and knowledge keepers, Minister Leachy explained. The Ontario government also announced $23.96 million in funding towards Indigenous education. Minister Leachy said this funding would allow Indigenous partners, school boards, and other education stakeholders to provide supportive, culturally appropriate, and safe education opportunities for Indigenous students. Brock Township adopting vote-by-mail election method. Dan Kearns, local journalism initiative reporter for The Standard. Brock. The Township of Brock is once again adopting vote-by-mail as their voting method for the 2022 municipal election. The decision was made at a meeting on Monday, October 4th. Council also decided to have ballots counted by optical scan voting tabulators. Regional Councillor Ted Smith told councillors this would be the 7th election where this method has been used in Township of Brock elections. We've done 6 vote-by-mail elections, and they've resulted in very good turnouts. It's usually the best turnout in the region of Durham, Councillor Smith said. Certainly, they're not perfect. No method is. I think this way has proven to work well in Brock. Ward 4 Councillor Kriya Pettingill asked if the Township has considered possibly allowing internet voting in a future election. Just as any other service, it comes at a cost, and it comes with additional administrative work. I do intend to continue to pursue investigations of online options for future elections in Brock, Clerk Fernando Lamanna stated. Will internet voting increase the voter turnout? Maybe, maybe not. It's not proven to increase voter turnout, but it does provide a matter of convenience and enhanced service to some electors who wish to choose to vote remotely. The clerk added he will consider the internet option for the 2026 election, and will hold a resident poll during the next term of council to see if there's a will or a wish to move to online voting. However, Ward 3 Councillor Walter Schumer pointed out that the township has a population that skews towards seniors, thus he would be hesitant to go exclusively to internet voting. Ward 2 Councillor Claire Doble said right out it makes sense for the municipality to go forward with vote-by-mail. CAO Ingrid Svelness concluded vote-by-mail works well. Lindsay Jail outbreak declared over. Dan Kearns, local journalism initiative reporter for The Standard. Kawartha Lakes. Haliburton Kawartha Pine Ridge District Health Unit's HKPR Medical Officer of Health, Dr. Natalie Bocking, had some positive news to share on Wednesday, September 29th. At a virtual press conference, Dr. Bocking announced there were no active COVID-19 outbreaks in the health unit jurisdiction. This means an outbreak at the Central East Correctional Center in Lindsay has been declared over. This was the second outbreak at the facility, and there were up to 18 inmate infections. The outbreak was declared by the health unit on Tuesday, September 7th. The first outbreak was declared at the facility in May, and saw up to 146 people infected. No cause was found as to how the virus got into the facility this time. I don't believe there was one event or circumstance which was identified to have triggered that initial spread. Certainly, we know when individuals enter the facility, they are screened for COVID-19, and sometimes people are identified to have COVID-19, Dr. Bocking said. I think the most important thing is, the facility has continued to strengthen its infection prevention and control measures to ensure there's no spread outside of intake units to the rest of the facility. As part of this outbreak, there were no cases identified among the staff population.
Mojacs starts 50th hockey season with a split. Dan Kearns, The Standard. Scugog. After about a year off due to the pandemic, the Port Perry Mojacs returned to the ice this past weekend, earning a split in their first couple of games. The Mojacs opened their 50th hockey season with a 2-1 victory in Georgina against the Ice on Friday, October 1st. Travis Hansen and Cameron Marshall scored Port Perry's first 2 goals of the season. Goaltender Gavin Bratt earned his first win as a Mojac. Coming off that win, the Mojacs headed home on Sunday, October 3rd to face the North Kawartha Knights at Scugog Arena. It wasn't the start the team was hoping for, as they were outshot 14-4 in the first period. North Kawartha scored the period's only goal with 1 minute and 30 seconds remaining on the clock. However, a little over halfway through the second period, Port Perry tied the game with a goal from Cody Bricknell. Just 46 seconds later, Braden Roberts wired the puck past North Kawartha's goaltender, giving the Mojacs a 2-1 lead. But with less than 6 minutes remaining, the Knights scored to tie the game at 2-2. In the third period, the Knights continued their momentum, scoring nearly 6.5 minutes in, making it a 3-2 deficit. Less than 4 minutes later, with a crowd of players around North Kawartha's goaltender, Jacob Sharp whacked the puck into the net, and the game was tied 3-3. But late in the period, the Knights scored a power play goal and then later added an empty net goal. The Mojacs lost the contest 5-3. One-timers. The Mojacs traveled to Lakefield to face the Chiefs on Tuesday, October 5th, past the Standard's press deadline. Port Perry will play the Georgina Ice at Scugog Arena on Sunday, October 10th at 2:25 p.m. With COVID-19 protocols in place, the Mojacs were able to play in front of 200 fans on Sunday. Season of Thanksgiving. What goes around comes around. Remember. So many good things have transpired as of late by way of recognition and remembrance, I could hardly keep up, and I am thankful for that. The season of Thanksgiving starts in late September, early October, and goes through to the end of Orthodox Christmas in the fresh new year. It's a season of acknowledgement of so many good things which have gone before, and continue in their spirit today. 1. In 2003, a movement to protect children from abuse started. The phrase, "every child matters," was used to promote awareness of children in abusive situations. We commemorate this movement and honor these lives each year. 2. Following this initiative, there has been a recognition of those who struggle with mental health, particularly children in underprivileged situations who need better nutrition and consideration for their emotional struggles in life. Here we see again, every child matters. 3. Next, we have the change in the tide toward the Indigenous peoples and their children due to the massive acknowledgement of the atrocities toward the Indigenous children in residential schools in the past. Demonstrating clearly, every child matters, and every person matters. To the degree, Education Minister Stephen Leachy has just announced a change in social studies curriculum to include teaching about the Indigenous peoples. Let's hope it includes the many major contributions these valiant people have made to progress and discoveries in our nation, and how they figure more central than previously understood in our Canadian culture. 4. Very recently, we had a celebration of the 150th birthday of Port Perry, its people, culture, and of course, the children, who were everywhere enjoying the goings-on. It was amazing to see how many families were out together. It seemed recognizably more so than in past years. Maybe something good is coming out of this time, as families have spent much more time growing together under the changes COVID has imposed. There was also a silent, dignified rally for life along Highway 7 on the same day. The simple holding of signs to share a concern about the abortion issue, with a much increased supportive reaction by passers-by. the proportions of positive responses were much higher than in years past. It seems the message is getting out. Every child matters, without restriction on race, creed, or status in life. There is so much to be thankful for in this season of Thanksgiving, and it has just begun. 5. Coming up soon is Thanksgiving Day. It's when we communicate our gratefulness for the bounty we share in our lives and at our tables, for our families, our country, and its freedoms, including that of speech, through the lives of each and every person with their varied opinions. I want to say right here, whether I agree with the opinions shared by anyone, I will always fight for the ability of each person to share them and strive to understand the heart of each one. Of course, as mature, caring Canadians, we know this does not always mean we will agree, but we will still hold in respect the ones who share and value them. This is what gives the communities we live in their potential strength and their relative safety. In the great by and by, what is actually true will be sorted. But in the meantime, loving our neighbor and extending dignity for their life reminds us we are all children of varied ages, learning and growing. Each life can be honored and is something to be thankful for. Without the past and the traditions which value the life we derive from it, we would be without any clear mooring. To navigate anywhere, there is always the need to regularly refer to where you came from. Even though some have lost their way and have disrespected life in our past, let's hope this recent turnaround will sincerely be indicative of actual recognition that each of us, every child, matters. The errors of the past don't have to be the traditions we live in, if we choose to learn. This is the meaning of repentance. The word used in the Scriptures, which is translated to the English word repent, actually is the Jewish word that means to change and live the way one should have before. It's not just the words, it's the change in life. That's how you draw a straight line to Thanksgiving. When we truly see and change, there is freedom for all involved. Maybe it would be good for us all to traditionally live in thankful ways, and even pray to God in thanksgiving for the lives of everyone close by in our community, our wonderful province, and all over Canada. Without this tradition of Thanksgiving Day, and the life all around it recognized, things would seem just a malaise of pressing on, a blur. Now is a time to stop and smell the life, the fresh air, and see the slow fireworks in creation in the changing of the leaves. It might be a good idea to pause and think about this, Selah, and allow for a moment a sense of gratefulness to fill you up. There is so much life reaching out. COVID's got nothing on life. Happy seasoning.
The Standard Podcast was produced by Greenstream Studio for the Standard newspaper.